Peace, y'all. It's the Anarkist. Welcome to the channel. The Anarkist, I'm here with Almedia, Exum, poet and actress. All right, on today's video, we're going to be reviewing, reacting, and decoding Lovecraft Country, the new HBO Max series, TV series, episode 3 of the first season. So we're going to do that. Please, please, please like right now. Go into the bottom of this video and like it before we get started. And also, if you're not subscribed, subscribe to the channel. Right now, we're going live on Almedia Exum's channel. So if you're over here on the Anarkist, please go check out Almedia Exum's channel. All right, you guys can go subscribe to that if you want daily life motivations. I don't know if you do them every single day, Almedia, but you need to get on it. But yeah, life motivations, the podcast, and also just other good information. Almedia is a vegan, which I like to call a super vegan. So she has a lot of good information on there, as well as her Instagram at Almedia Exum. And my Instagram, of course, is at Anarkist Beats with a Z. So let's get started with this review, reaction, and decoding. Almedia, please take the floor.
Yes, welcome you all. Again, I am Almedia Exum, and we are here to share our reaction and our review as we decode episode 3 of Lovecraft Country, the TV show. I'm just going to pull up some information real quick about the TV show. Remember to click that like button and that subscribe button as well. And we will
also spoilers. There's going to be spoilers in this, and for people who appreciate people who say that before we get into it, it's going to be mad spoilers. So you have to have seen it to really get into it. If you don't care about spoilers, cool, listen up if you haven't seen it, but it's for people who have seen episode 3 so far. So let's go.
All right. So the name of episode 3 is Holy Ghost. And I'm going to read a brief synopsis of this episode, and then we'll begin decoding this episode of Lovecraft Country. Okay. Let's see here. All right, so the way it starts off is so basically 3 weeks after George's funeral, Leti uses an unexpected inheritance from her deceased mother to buy a building, a mansion, which is what it looks like, in an all-white neighborhood on the Chicago North Side. Shout out to Chicago, that's where I'm at now, that's my city. So she buys this building, this mansion in an all-white neighborhood, all-white segregated neighborhood, or not segregated, just all white neighborhood on the north side of Chicago. She decides to fill it with Black renters supporting her own people, like artists and stuff. She also decides to do this with her sister Ruby. She surprises Ruby with this and decides, like, okay, we're going to start over, build our relationship together, and just do this, have this building together. So that's how it first starts off. And do you want to take the lead with that?
Yeah, so it starts off with well, actually, I believe it starts off the Journey Smollett Letitia scene where she's trying to convince her sister to go basically live with her in this house, and she pitches it as, we can help Black people as a boarding home. It's a lot of rooms. It's really big. Even though it looks like Casper, the ghost's house, it looks like a haunted house, legit, from the outside. And they go in, it's a lot of cobwebs. But, she's got some money from somewhere. We don't know where in the beginning of the episode. But, she really tries hard to convince her sister that it'd be a good bonding thing and it'd be good for the community, even though her sister is very apprehensive because, of course, it's North Chicago, which, as we talk about all the time.
I'm going to step off camera for just 1 second. I just have to check something, make sure my sound is good. But just keep going. I'll be right back, all right?
Okay. Yeah, so just explaining, guys, like I said, in that scene, we basically get Letitia, played by Journey Smollett. She's trying to convince her sister, Ruby, her kind of estranged sister. They grew up together, but as adults went separate ways, to live in this house on Chicago's North Side, which I was going to say, even we know today, living in Chicago is an extremely segregated area. Like, to this day, there are, of course, on the South Side, you're going to get most of the Black neighborhoods, as well as on the West Side, but East Side and North Side is mostly like white neighborhoods. Right now, I'm on the Northwest Side, so it's like a Hispanic neighborhood for the most part. But this is a very extremely segregated area, even to this day, Chicago. So imagine how it was back then. So we're in, we start off in the beginning, North Side Chicago. In fact, I think they did a good job because one of the first things was like a camera in someone else's house is kind of like pulling the blinds back. So you kind of, you get this kind of like feeling that this newcomers in the neighborhood, that saying there goes the neighborhood. So it's interesting, starts interesting, but yeah, that's where we at with it.
All right. Thank you so much, Anarkist, for just taking us through the beginning scenes of this episode. I do want to mention we get a clip of Leti in the beginning at the church, and she's just looking all down and out, and as if I don't know if that was technically it's after his funeral, so it's weeks after his funeral. So I don't know if she's trying to seek God after having experienced not only all this white supremacy, but also the witchcraft and everything, or I guess, yeah, the witchcraft and magic and the monsters. They arrive back in Chicago, and you just see her in this church. And remember, she said in episode 1 that her church days are far behind her and her sister. So I thought that was interesting to see her in the church, almost as if she's trying to find some type of salvation to kind of remedy all this stuff that she's been through in the past couple of weeks. So we do see them going, she buys this mansion, trying to like start over with her sister. I thought that was very interesting. I think that's a part of her, like, trying to find this salvation. Like, I want to do something right. I want to feel like myself again. Basically, she wants to feel like herself again. And so she surprises Ruby, and Ruby's just like, what's going on? Like, where did you get this money from? How could you afford this mansion? And then Ruby really doesn't want to integrate into this white neighborhood. She's like, she's okay where she's at. And then Letty's like, no, come on, this would be great for us. I'm going to rent it out to my artist friends so they can make, have a place to stay. And so many blacks are pioneering into white neighborhoods and all this stuff that she's saying. And so Ruby, takes a look inside, and I like it because I have sisters. I'm one of many siblings, and I have sisters, so I totally know that feeling when it's just like, trying to win your sister over or win your sibling over. And I like how Ruby was like, fine, but I get the biggest room in the house, and they make up. And I just thought that was so cool because I know what that's like when one of your siblings is trying to convince you of something, or you're trying to convince them or something, and you guys kind of get to that moment to where you kind of give in. I thought it was an omen. Let me stop. When the elevator, like, you didn't talk about this when I was checking my sound, right? Did you talk about that? Okay. So she shows her that there's an elevator. Like, come on now, like an elevator in this big house, like that's pretty great. She opens up the thing, she opens up like the door, and the elevator freaking like falls down, almost hits her head, and all she says is oh, I'm gonna fix that. I'm like, girl, no, like, you need to be packing your bags. This is a safety hazard. But it did remind us that she talks later, like how she talks later in the episode about how she can't really fix stuff right away because there's like a contract or something. And apparently during this time period, they would, and you probably know about this, the Anarkist, they would make deals with blacks to integrate into neighborhoods and give them like these loans or something. And then they would basically make it to where they couldn't pay off the loans. So they would have to give the property back. So a lot of blacks will like lose money. But a part of the agreement is that you can't do any type of construction to the property. Even if you buy the property or you put money down on the property, you cannot put holes in the walls or whatever. You can't make any major adjustments to the property until you close on the deal, until you like pay everything off. And by that time, you've been putting money into it. It could take years, but you pay it off, and then they find some type of way so that they can still keep the property or whatever. So a lot of blacks during this time were actually like kind of being scammed. But anyway, I guess Leti was a part of one of these like deals where she was able to put money down, this mysterious money down on the property, but she couldn't fix certain things. So she talks about how she's going to fix the elevator, but she doesn't. Like, she can't right now or whatever. So I just thought that was interesting. So moving on from that scene, so you see that's like one of the first scenes that we see in the episode. And from there, she talks about throwing this big party, this big celebration, bringing all of her friends from the South Side, Chicago. I thought that was so cool because in my mind, some neighborhoods you go into, the Anarkist, you just kind of don't want to like disturb people. And she was just so bold and so unapologetic as an activist. I really like Leti. I like that she's an activist, that she cares about her people, that she's unapologetic, And she's in this neighborhood, and a lot of people who move to those type of neighborhoods would probably just think, oh, I don't want to stir up no trouble, so I'm not going to throw a house party. She didn't care. She wanted all of her people and all the people from the South Side to be a part of this celebration of pioneering into this neighborhood. So she threw a party. And it must have been an insult, add insult to injury, because not only are they not welcome there, they're not welcome there because they're black, but now you're going to bring all these other black folk over here. We don't want you here. Now you're bringing all these other black folks over here. So she decides to have a get together, but we find out about that just a little bit later. But so what happens is she decides she's going to do that. We see right away after she's moved in that the white neighbors are not happy. They start putting bricks on their car horns, which I didn't know that was a thing. That's kind of smart to annoy somebody. I never thought that was a thing. Like they tied the bricks down. I would never do that, but I'm just saying, like,
coming out like, like pettiness, like, oh, if I wanted to get real petty, I didn't know that was a thing. Don't get, look, y'all. Side note: don't give no cancers no petty ideas. All right, don't ever do that. Anyway, good.
I'm a Cancer, my zodiac. Anarkist is a Taurus, so I don't know. They could be. I don't know if y'all could be petty.
We stubborn.
Stubborn, yeah, y'all are. Okay, so the white neighbors, they begin to harass them. We even see later in the episode that they put a cross. Actually that happens at the block club party. So, well, not the block club, the get together party, the housewarming party. So what happens after they first get into the house? You remember? After they first, I feel like the warming party happens really soon. Oh, I know what happens next. Do you remember?
Well, I remember even before that, there are scenes with Atticus back at home with Hippolytus, and obviously what we know from episode 2, where Uncle George died, and we know, the audience knows the circumstances. It had to deal with masonry, wizardry, and all magic and all that stuff. He was shot, but basically as a part of some sort of ritual to get Atticus involved in the ritual. So, they know that. Atticus, his dad Montrose, and Letitia all know that. But obviously, Hippolytus and Uncle George's daughter, was it Diana?
Yeah.
Diana, they don't know this. They just know that, basically, I believe the story they told him was he was shot by a racist sheriff. Yeah. So, when we first see that scene, we first see Hippolytus kind of, I don't want to say she's having a breakdown, but she's definitely going through it. Of course, we know it's a few weeks after the wedding, and she seems to kind of be holding it together, but still, obviously, she just lost a loved one, so it's not all the way there. And Atticus is still there because remember, he was staying with his uncle and family, and he was just there, just trying to help out, basically doing all the things that his uncle would be doing, trying to help the family, especially with the business, the book business, and the travel guide business, and just that stuff. He's trying to help out and just trying to make the family better. But it seems like at this point, Hippolytus is a little annoyed, not by what he's doing, but I think it's twofold. I think for one, she understands that whatever, she has just this woman intuition that whatever she's been told wasn't the truth. So it's just feel like she just wants to know everything. And also, I think she's kind of just looking at Atticus's mannerisms and how he moves and just how much that is reminding him of George, so her husband, her late husband. So I feel like it was those two things. Maybe she just grappling with maybe what she knows about Atticus and his paternity and things like that, but also that she's just kind of perturbed that she feel like she's not being told the truth, which we find out later on she believes that she's not been told everything. So that's the one scene, and I'll let you elaborate. Or
I feel like Hippolytus, I love Hippolytus, by the way. I love her character, her daughter's character. These two like dynamics of like her mother being an astronomer, Hippolytus being an astronomer, and the daughter being a comic book nerd and just an artist who draws. And I feel like George made them whole. He made them whole in this nerdy family, right? And I was mad as if George was my old man. Like, I don't know. Like, I was mad because we opened up in episode 2 and episode 3, and I'm like, wait, he's really dead? Like, they talk about they had his funeral and everything. Like, what? Like, he's not coming back? I had to grieve. And then when I saw Hippolytus, I'm like, wow, I'm grieving for her because she's kind of bitter. She's lost the love of her life. And that takes time, especially when she wanted to take the next like guy trip with him. She had plans of her own. They had a happy family, and now a part of her is missing. And all she has left is her nephew walking around, which really is the son of her husband, which we don't even know if Hippolytus knows this or not. We have no idea if she knows. Maybe she knows. I don't know. But something about him is really bothering her, having his presence around. Because keep in mind, like he came back and now her husband's
just want to say, I know we jumping around, but I just want to say, well, I'm gonna be jumping around, but I felt that way when she had a conversation with Montrose, because remember she said something like, I believe she said it, correct me if I'm wrong, but she said something like he lays the cups down the same way.
I thought he laid them down.
I mean, it might be.
He thought he did them down differently.
Okay. All right, you back? You back?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you going for a second.
I was saying I thought he laid the cups down differently. I thought that's why she was irritated.
Maybe that was I might have missed that, but it was either that. It was either that I felt like it was either that he was doing it different, which irritated her, or I kind of thought it was, if it was the other way, and she was hinting like he does it the exact same way. She was kind of like saying like she just reminded me too much.
She want her husband back. Yeah, she want her husband. Like it's like salt in the wound. You have this other man there all the time, and a relative, and something about him either reminds you of your husband or makes you just for some reason miss him more. And I felt that. I felt that for her. I mourned and grieved for Hippolytus. I loved their relationship. This whole family they had, like they had a whole family, a complete family with Diana and her husband George. And so we see that, and you see him decide to go to his father's house. Remember, because I guess she either kicked him out or he knew it just became too uncomfortable. So he went to his father's house and he told his dad, he was like, things have become tense between me and Aunt Hippolytus, and I need to stay over here. And his dad does all this, what do you call that? Basically, I don't know if his dad probably didn't serve. I don't think his dad served in the war, but PTSD and aggression. You just snapping, punching stuff, and I think we even saw, did we see like some in one of these episodes we saw like fist marks in the wall, like somebody was punching the wall.
Yeah, that was the very first episode.
Okay, so I'm just now remembering this. So there's definitely been a lot of abuse, and it was triggered by Atticus. You could tell, like he was like, he don't even feel comfortable sitting down in here, let alone laying his head down. So he brought his bag over to his dad's house. But when his dad snapped on him, because Atticus said, we need to do something. If Uncle George was here, he would do something. And his father snapped, and so he left. And then he made an excuse to go and see Leti. So he went up to the north side, was like, oh, I went to your house, and they said your place, and they said I bought you a house up here. And so she peeped that he probably was homeless or something, because she was basically like, well, I got an extra room back there. And he's like, no, I'm heading down to Florida. And then you notice both of them have been in a situation where they ain't had no place to go, and so they had to figure it out. And so the only thing they figured out was like being on the road.
I'm gonna be honest. I honestly don't think that Atticus went there with the intentions on staying. I know I think when stuff went south with Hippolytus and living there, that living situation, and then he realized that it was going to be impossible for him to live with his dad, that he just visited her just so he could let her know that he was moving. Because remember, he said he was going back to Florida. So I guess he felt like, let me just go back there. At least that's kind of like where home base is for me if it's not here. But the only reason he did stay was based on the racial incident that happened, at the home. Because he was like, matter of fact, I'm staying. I think he had intentions on leaving, but he was just like, you know what, let me just go ahead and keep around so I can protect whatever,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you're right. And I like that. I like when he saw the race soldiers out there. He was like, yeah, I think I'll stay a night, and they needed him to stay and stuff. And so that happens, and he ends up staying, and things creepy are happening. Like Leti wakes up the next morning and sees that so the race soldiers are still haunting them and tempting them and stuff. And wait, was that the night that they had the party, or I think that was the next night? Yeah, so the race soldiers are still tempting them. She goes downstairs to her.
Well, no, not the Because all right, race soldiers is a term for police who aren't actually police, who are actually a
You're
part of
right.
racist
Thank you.
movements in the police. So
Thank
it would
you.
be just the
Racist.
white supremacists and racists in the community who are trying to
Thank
harass.
you. Can you break that down again? Because I'm mixing up terms and stuff. So go ahead and say
Yes.
that again, just so I'm not confusing anybody.
So yeah, we call race soldiers people who pose as police officers but are actually a part of some of these white supremacist groups that the FBI said had infiltrated police. There are a bunch of groups of white supremacists who go into police just so they can harass black people. That is a fact going to FBI's website. So those people aren't real police. Those are called race soldiers.
Mm-hmm.
So it
So
wasn't those people who were hassling the house at first. It was actually the racists in the community.
yeah, but just to be clear, I threw that term out there, wrong term. But later you will see racist cops who are potentially race soldiers, basically just racist cops. Same thing, racist cops. But this isn't what was happening right now. But you will see them later in the episode targeting Letty and basically siding with the racist neighbors. But the racist neighbors are the ones that were like out there. And Letty goes down to her basement, and it's like a boiler down there, and it's really hot or something. She's trying to fix it, and we get the glimpses of like a horror like show by. It's like a buildup of jump scares or something. I guess she found out. I think that's when she found out about the chamber down there.
Mm.
And she gets Atticus to come and look at it with her, and she thought somebody was trapped down there. It was really creepy. And so after that, we see that scene. He's telling her, "Oh, this would be a great place for your dark room or whatever." That's what you call it, right? A dark room,
Yep.
developing room,
Mm-hmm. Dark room, yeah.
which she later like puts down there, which is kind of cool to have this huge house and you can do so much with it. And so then we go to the night of the party, which is kind of cool. I really like that. All those black people together. Atticus is dressed like a soldier. He's going back down to Florida. Why? Why did he dress up like that?
Well, people who are army soldiers or veterans, when it's time to wear a suit, they wear their, army, they wear their decorative suits. So
Oh,
yeah, instead of just putting on like a black tie, which he would do, because remember back in season or episode 2 when William said we're going to have a party and it's black tie, he had to put on a little black suit and tie. But oftentimes soldiers who are very proud of being soldiers, they'll put on those army suits, the green ones with the hat and all the decorations.
Maybe that's all he could afford. Because I'm like, because the reason why I'm asking is because I thought he thought being a soldier was a waste of his time. Remember how he looked at the recruiter, and his father never liked him being a soldier. Like, so I just feel like, why even showcase this if you know the horrors of the war and how they disrespect you as a black man when you come back to the country, like come back from war. So I'm like, maybe that's the only suit he had, or maybe he was trying to dress to impress for Letty or whatever, or maybe because he knew he was going to be leaving, he wore it. But if you're saying that's just what they do, that makes sense. But I felt like when he came back from the war, he was stripping himself of that. So if I that's like, me being a usher. I'm so bad at this. Like me being like, I'm bad at examples, y'all. Me being an usher in the church, and I'm proud of that. And then I decide that I'm denouncing myself from that church and from my title. And Atticus never really says that, but that's like me saying that or believing that, and then I show up in my usher's uniform one day because I just, I'm at a party and I want to. Does that make sense?
It does, and I can see what you're saying with that. But I would say, with my understanding of people in the army, I would say, for the most part, even though the Atticus character seems very conscious, very awoke. But remember, he did. Now, when you reference that scene in the first episode where he did look at the recruiter officer, I feel like there is some sort of animosity there, because he's like, listen, especially with the way he was kind of doing it, like, come on, sign up, kids, and he probably did that to him. But I know he understands that being a black soldier is conflict there, but I'm not necessarily sure. He understands America, but I'm not sure that he's not proud of being a soldier. For instance, you have soldiers like take for instance, a few years back, there was a soldier out in Houston, an ex-army veteran out in Houston named Micah Johnson. That was the black man who shot at police and was in that building where they actually sent a robot in there to kill him. He was a black conscious dude, actually pro-black extremist, really, obviously, that we know now. And he was shooting at police based on shootings at the time. I can't remember which one, but he was shooting at police. And this is a person. Think about it. He's obviously, the way he feels about America is, I'm a black man in it, but he already was in a war. So it's like he made a decision, but he totally denounces pretty much his idea of an American soldier. So he denounces that, but it's like you don't really denounce yourself as a soldier. He still uses army techniques to do that. Clearly he did. He took out a few cops and shot a bunch of them, and it was his army, his military training. So it's just like, I think that in that aspect, you have soldiers who will raise up that part, like, because they do find that the training that they got as an army soldier did help them, and they are proud of being a soldier, but not necessarily, maybe understand that they weren't really included. But for Atticus, I do feel like, although he understands where he at, he did make that decision. So no part of me felt like he was ashamed of being a soldier. So I think, like I said, his intentions were just like any army dude. If it's like, if I'm aware, so if I have to dress up, this is how I know how to dress up. Is to put on this army thing. You see my dad. And again, I think you were right in saying, like, knowing that some women, especially at that time, but even now, like men in uniform. So it's just like you get that reaction. But I think that's you looking into stuff, which is good. But that one, that's my take on it.
Okay. Thank you, the Anarkist, for breaking that down to us. We go on to see that the party's happening, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful. Everybody's singing, having fun. Some guy jokes about having had sex with Leti. Remember, I think he did that last episode. And then he's at this party, and she calls him out. It's like, since I had sex with you or whatever. Clearly, they never had sex together. And so you see this party going on, and Letty's trying to, I guess, tease Atticus by like dancing all on this guy.
Well, yeah, because when they were, I want to set that up, because when they were in the little underground basement area, Leti was trying to think. I'm like, oh, thank you so much. Grabbed his hand, and I don't know what this was about, but he just like, oh, okay. He kind of pulled away. So I think, in her mind, she's like, you here, I like you, you like me, let's get this thing started. Like, what's wrong? And then his whole thing, maybe he's conflicted about what just happened, with Uncle George and all that stuff.
Because she did say, you haven't spoken to me in 3 weeks since we got back, which is crazy. Who does that? Like, everybody should be family after
well, I guess
that.
He was spending a lot of time figuring out, because of his guilt that he can't really say what happened. He was literally putting all his energy in just to trying to make Hippolytus this home feel like it was, but it's just like he was almost doing a disservice. It's just like, you can't feel this void, like you're trying to, but you can't. So he was putting all his energy into that, and then he just pulled it out. So I think, his focus, I don't think it was necessarily against Letitia, but it was just like, I'm doing this. But then when he felt he wasn't wanted there, then he kind of redirected his energy, but still kind of conflicted. But
yeah. And so basically she kind of teases him and starts flirting with some guy that we don't know, background guy number 3. No, she starts flirting with this guy and grinding on him, and I'm like, that's so cold. But I know, I understand as a woman.
They made eye contact. She was like, don't.
I'm like, that's so disrespectful. I was like, that's so disrespectful.
But then before that scene, what's interesting, and I'll make mention of this because I'll just touch on it a little bit, because this is more like character stuff. But in that scene, you can see, Letitia knew what she was doing. She was like, all right, since we ain't together, clearly, I try to hold your little pinky in the basement. You weren't going for that, so I'm dancing with this guy. But before that scene, the guy that did the bar scene in episode 1, he was lying, talking about some, oh yeah, me and that's we said we tussled back in the day, which is old people slang for we was doing the do. You know what I'm saying? So he was trying to make it, get under Atticus' skin. Yeah, by saying, oh, if you're gonna get her, man, you better tame her. She's been around here like she's loose. But then
and you out here not paying rent? Like
right. You're in this house and you ain't paying rent. So it's just like he kind of alluding like, okay, but he was like, well, if that's your girl, man, trying to make it seem like she's been all over. So I feel like in him, there's this conflict, like, dang, maybe she is an out there woman, which I feel like back then meant a little bit more to guys than probably does now. But I know some guys still. But what was interesting is after that scene, he kind of professes his love to her with a kiss, passionate, and there's another sex scene, which I thought was interesting because obviously wasn't as good as the very first sex scene in episode 1 of Lovecraft Country.
I mean, but it was necessary. Like, it's a different type of. I mean, you can't talk about like a love that has foundation like Hippolytus and Uncle George versus them. He has to get in there. He went into the bathroom first. We saw like that ghost thing in the window in the mirror reflection, and then I thought she was gonna look up and see it, but it disappeared, and you saw Atticus. I'm like, he looking all types of upset. Like, this is my time. If I don't say nothing, then I'm gonna lose out on the moment. Like, he was just really like, I didn't know what he was thinking in his head, and he goes up in there and takes up for himself, and I know she loved every bit of that. And then we find out later that
Oh, I
we
found
do.
out then. I found out then. I realized because
I
when
thought
he
that was her cycle. I thought it was her cycle.
that's
I
what she
believed her.
said. But I felt like when that happened, of course he reaches down his hand, it's blood. So he's like, all right, what's going on? And she immediately says, oh, it must, uses often I think slang that they women would use back then. Oh, it's my monthlies. That's my monthlies now. And then he was just like, well, no big deal. That's cool, whatever.
And I
And
like
then
that
just
he said that because that could be very embarrassing for a woman. So I
right,
think that
right,
was
right.
so great that he was like reassuring her, you
Yeah,
know.
he played it off cool. But then but based on her telling that, he didn't realize that was because what I thought is just like, was that her hymen that got popped, and that's where the blood came from? You know what I'm
I didn't
saying?
think
So
that. I didn't. I
yeah.
thought it was her cycle right away. I just believed her. And I was thinking, I'm like, dang, when I found out it was her, she actually lost her virginity to him. I was like, I don't know if I want to lose my virginity like that in a bathroom. Like
I mean,
I
it's her
mean,
house. I mean, it was passionate. I
true.
mean,
It's a party, but like standing up. And I don't know, they did have some, but it was so rough. Like it was so rough what they were doing. So I'm just like, but hey, it was still special to her. And it just seemed
said
like
she didn't
it seemed,
regret it.
yeah, and it seemed so, like innocent. Like you could tell, like with the acting of Jonathan Majors and Journey Smollett, like it seems so innocent, even though it was rough, passionate sex. It seems so innocent, like, and I just like how, and you could see the vulnerability there in her, like as she was like, "Hey, will I see you out there?" Like she was, I felt like with her saying that, she said less, but her body language said more. It said, "Hey, I hope this isn't just a fling. I hope that we're still going to be together when we leave this bathroom and stuff." And just that vulnerability when she looked over her shoulder as he walked out. So I like that. That was interesting. And then right after she loses her virginity, she a whole new woman because there's a burned cross. The racist neighbors put a burning cross, which is known, like people do that a lot in the South and other places, just to indicate like what, like death or something, like get out of my neighborhood, right? To like black people.
Well, the burning cross is historically the KKK's practice of
Oh,
intimidating people of color, because not just black people, they'll do that to most any other people that they don't like, Jewish people,
mm,
whatever. But yeah, historically, black people in the South were chased off, harassed by a burning cross, which seems a little counterintuitive because the KKK is supposed to be a Christian group. What does it mean that you burning your Christian symbol? I don't know. But is it probably because I've broken down before the Ku Klux Klan, the KKK is actually a very advanced secret society. They try to act like it's just a bunch of tobacco spitters, but really it's just like in the last episode or in the last episode 2, they talked about Freemasons and Masonry. The Ku Klux Klan, they have Grand Wizards, Grand Masons, all that
mm.
type of stuff. They're
But
Masonic.
remember, side note back to episode 2. Remember they said Christina said, now that you're talking about the KKK, I just remembered this. She was like, the KKK can't afford us. Like basically, we're too good to be associated with the KKK. Like they're a cheap organization. Like we're too advanced for them. I thought that was interesting.
It
But
is interesting because
oh,
I felt like that was either Misha Green's ignorance as the writer, if she put that in there, or maybe I'm just misinterpreting because she did. If you once you hear it and from a layperson's perspective, that sounds like, well, yeah, I know the KKK. They're just a bunch of idiot white folks who have this hood on and run around in horses and try to scare people. They don't know that they are an advanced secret society. There are people who are on the Supreme Court who are KKK Grand Wizards. We don't know. People, all
wow.
types in Congress, who have power. So that is, like I said, that is another advanced secret society like the Freemasons. But I don't know if Misha Green understands that, or maybe she would, maybe that's just like some stuff where it's. I don't think she would be trying to mislead us. So I just think maybe she doesn't understand the origins of maybe the KKK and to another secret society. But maybe then she doesn't to other secret society. They feel like this is still. But the way I felt was is just like when you think of the KKK, you don't think of a advanced secret society. So that seems like how she was putting, oh, they're just too poor. They're not like us, but they are in many ways, unless you just feel like, well, our lives is better or more richer. But
All
so I
lives
thought that was
matter.
right. Right.
I
All lives
had to say
matter.
that. All lives matter. I just okay now. Just so this is us just being a little silly, y'all. So yeah, so from there she gets her cherry popped. She is no longer a virgin, no longer Eve. Adam has taken her. Let me stop. I'm metaphors. Has taken her virginity. Leti, so that we see the fire, the cross on fire outside, and she is livid. She is livid. I'm surprised she could walk after this being her. I'm just thinking about being a woman and losing your virginity, and she is now a new woman. She has regained her power, and she goes out there and it's like, nah, not today. They not gonna F up my night. I got all my friends and the whole South Side with me. Nah, like she went out there, and I love that scene. She went out there, and some other people went out there, and they were on code. They went out there smashing all those cars. She was done with it. She was like, nah, they're gonna see what I'm about. Not Letty, not Letitia F. and Lewis. No, no, no. And she led the movement to slamming all their cars and breaking the glasses out, taking the bricks off the horns. And then I don't know if you peeped this, but from what I saw, somebody drove up, put all the bats and stuff in the car and drove out. Is that what they did? That's what I'm talking about being on code. And then and she just had her hands up, and they had their hands up.
That was Ruby, actually. Ruby did that.
Yeah, Ruby. Oh, I love Ruby. Yeah, she was on code, and that's why you need a sister, whether it's your biological sister or you need a brother, whether it's your biological brother or not, to help you get on code and think about stuff that you ain't thinking about. Letty gets in a lot of trouble. She gets arrested a lot because she may not be thinking ahead like how her sister can, and hopefully that comes in handy down the road. Hopefully, Ruby can help her get out of stuff with her wisdom, being an older sister. But who knows? But I thought that was on code, and then we realized that so they get arrested, right? And I'm surprised they didn't.
I got something to say about this thing. I got something to say. South got something to say.
Okay.
For those who didn't get that reference, Andre 3000 at one of the, I don't know if it was the Hip Hop Awards or Grammy Awards, when he won the award. He was Atlanta was just getting started as a powerhouse in hip hop, but New York and LA didn't respect it. He was like, you know what, South got something to say. South got something to say. So South got something to say. No, I really have something to say about that scene because it seemed like after the burning of the cross and becoming a woman, as you said, Letitia F. and Lewis was
burning
like, you know,
the cross.
Yeah, that was sparked it. It burned, and she was like, you know what, forget this. Got the bat, went out there, and what I like I said, that was the best scene in this episode. I'm not gonna lie, episode 3 is actually my least favorite episode. We're gonna get into why, but I would say that is the best scene in this episode because of the feeling you get from it. She just, like I said, Letitia is a very powerful black woman character. She went out there and like, you know, forget this. Boom, these your cars in front of my house that you trying to intimidate me with. Boom, they go to windows. Boom, they go to headlights, and I'm getting rid of these bricks off the cars. And then if you notice, Atticus, he went and got guns, and because he's probably the only soldier there or one of the few, he kind of organized them militarily because he's like, if she gonna go out and do this, we gonna make sure ain't nobody gonna, you know, so we got our guns looking out. That's what that was for. He had the dudes had there with the guns. Because as she did that, he like, look, we gonna bust a cap in anything that think they gonna stop her from doing that. Then, as you could see, like it was, like I said, it was a very powerful scene because it was so organized, and like Ruby immediately got the car, like, because she see the gun, she see the bat, put the weapons in the car, boom, I'm just skirting off, I'm going back to the South Side. So, you know, once all that's done, and of course, Letitia, being a black activist, understands once the police get here, get on them knees, hands on my head. You know what I'm saying? So that was just so perfectly organized. I thought it was beautifully done, well written, and even directed well. It's just like those type of scenes that give you that emotion. Because I was like, yeah, dude, yeah.
I know, right?
I'm like, oh, y'all got this whole thing. Yeah, the fact that you could be so organized that quick was just very empowering. I know a lot of black people felt that energy. I felt, wow, like this is real.
And then it just shows how we were then, you know, and how we, you know, like, really have to be as a people, you know. And not to like spend too much on this topic, but on this scene, but if you notice, the white neighbors were on code and the police were on code with them, so they needed any reason to arrest the blacks, but all that time, like, they never arrested the whites at all for any of the crimes. And then when she gets in the car, we discover a white supremacist soldier, which is the term I used older, but
they even make that point earlier in the episode where obviously the white people are setting up to do that antagonizing gesture that they did. Yeah, they just riding by. They actually just, we don't see nothing.
And I think they wanted that Letitia and all of them to see them drop by. Like, yeah, we see what's going on, and we're gonna intentionally let it happen. But if y'all do something, we're gonna be on you like white on rice. And so we see her encounter a white supremacist race soldier, basically, which is like a racist cop. And we see that encounter in the paddy wagon or whatever, and he's questioning her, saying, how did you get this house? How could you afford this house? And he grips the car thingy and makes sure that she's like flying all over the truck. I mean, all over the back of the paddy wagon, getting injured and hit and stuff. And I really feared for her life because it makes me think how many people were arrested. Of course, not in this movie, but in real life, for standing up for themselves and didn't make it back home. And so the cop seems like he is actually like invested in this house. He's like, how did you do this? You know, and yada, yada, yada. We find out that the house is owned by, has something to do with that secret order of the Sons of Adam. Actually, let me just read this right here. Because we find out more about the house. We discover that the house is haunted. We discover that there were blacks were being experimented on. And doesn't this have some ties with something real though? Like I feel like this is based on like a real story. I think it's based on a real story, right?
It definitely is. Actually, a number of different stories. I know Tariq Nasheed, the filmmaker of the movie 1804 and the Hidden Color series. He talks about how not only how we talked about this in the last video, but how a lot of these secret societies eat and kidnap people, black people especially, and you know. But there has also been some cases. I believe it was down in New Orleans, and I don't remember what time. It was like a while ago. Of there's been a lot of cases of just like doctors or rogue doctors who have been caught experimenting on black people. There was one case Tariq talked about that was down in the South where there were people that other white people had to call on. It was like there were nasty smells coming from the house, weird sounds coming from the house. And when they arrested these people, these so-called doctors, I don't even know if they were real medical doctors, but they found that they were legit experimenting, like taking body parts off, just doing all types of just unspeakable things. So that is a real, absolute real thing. And that's what's touched on in this story. Yeah.
Okay. So let me just cover this real quick. So basically, a white supremacist police officer, his name is Captain Lancaster, he threatens Leti. Inside the house, like we discover there's a lot of like supernatural activities happening, and Leti learns that the previous owner, which is a white scientist, his name is Hiram Epstein. Hold that thought because I know we want to connect that to somebody else. Hiram Epstein, who, with the help of Lancaster, the police officer who was asking Leti all these questions, they both experimented on and killed 8 black people before burying them under the house. This is why the house is haunted, because of those people that they experimented on, tortured, and buried. All 9 spirits are trapped in the house. With the help of Leti, the black spirits, with the help of Leti, the black spirits, all the spirits in the house are able to basically attack Epstein towards the end of the episode. But we find out that Atticus he finds that Christina is in Chicago and that she survived the fire. So all of this stuff is happening. Like Leti does all this research about Epstein and finds out like he's connected to all of this stuff. Atticus is finding out that Christina, the son of William, that Samuel
is the guy.
Samuel, yeah, that she's still alive, and he's trying to get her out of town, and he discovers that she gave Leti the money to get the house, because Leti says that she got a note saying that it was from her mother's inheritance, and we discovered that it's actually
and she originally lied to her sister and said that she hit the lottery.
Exactly, and so she thought it was her mother giving her money, but it was really Christina, who survived the fire, giving her money to the house. And Christina wants her to find something inside the house for her, and Atticus threatens her with a gun, basically saying like, stay away from her, stay away from all of my family and all of my friends or whatever. And what else happens? I want to just cover this so we could just talk through it in the last 20 minutes. So Atticus figures out that Christina faked the inheritance, and she really gave her the money because she wanted Leti to find something in the house. Leti says, F you, I'm not finding nothing for you. My name is on the deed. Get the F out my place or whatever. And Atticus actually puts up like some type of like safety. He puts like a ritual symbol on the door, so I guess that she can't come in the house. Remember that? Am I jumping
Is that in
ahead?
this episode? Yeah, is that in
Oh,
this
I don't know.
episode?
I hope I ain't jumping ahead because I did see the
I
next
know what
episode.
I know what does happen is because you went straight to the end where we meet Christina, but I know what I do want to talk about for at least a bit because I felt like was a big
And we
part of
got
this
about like
episode.
19 minutes left to cover everything.
Gotcha. So one thing I do want to talk about because I feel like it was very huge, was a very huge subject in in this episode was magic, specifically voodoo, which we know as voodoo. You understand?
Mm,
Because I guess to do that when they found out the house is haunted, they go to this medicine woman, this witch,
mm.
this voodoo witch, to and we see she comes
Oh
up and
yeah.
she's clearly Jamaican. She sacrifices a goat so she gets the
That was
goat's
so
blood.
sad. But okay, let me
Yeah,
stop.
which I want to say this too because I know for a fact, and I know it's probably Christians in the audience. Oh, them voodoo. Listen, there are people today, black people and white people, who practice voodoo, which is known as a religion called voodoo. It's people who practice that, but I want to let y'all know right now. Most people who know what they're doing in voodoo don't have to sacrifice animals. People don't do that anymore. I don't even think they do that in Haiti or Jamaica anymore. It's what some do because I know them a lot of people into Santeria. A lot of those Dominicans and people on the East Coast they into sacrificing animals still. But you don't have to do that. Most people want in his knowledge understand you do not have to sacrifice an animal anymore. We're in a new age. We're in a new time. Just understand what a sacrifice is, and you don't really have to do that to an animal. You don't have to kill an animal, but I understand they still do that in movies just to show you that killing a goat is like the ultimate symbol of voodoo. So you see that in the movies, like, oh, they're doing voodoo. So, but most people who are voodoo practitioners don't do that. For all my vegans and all my animal lovers out there, so I was just as appalled as y'all. Like y'all ain't even got to do that if you're doing real magic, real voodoo magic. You don't have to do that. But so they do just to show you it is because people associate that with voodoo and stuff like that. So she kills the goat, cuts his neck to get the blood, puts the X's around Atticus's head and also Letitia's head for protection. Um, and this ritual and just on the door or whatever, and then they do basically an exorcism to try to figure out what's going on and get an exorcise to go out of there. So in that scene, so like I said,
Yeah.
in this, my take on it is, like I said, I understand sometimes you have to do that just to let people know, look, this is what's happening. 'Cause I don't think they outright said, okay, we're going to get a witch lady and go do voodoo. They just got somebody and you're just supposed to figure out what's going on. But I just wish she could have did a little bit more, just it's supposed to be an informational show, so I want you to show more how. Well, I guess back then that's how it was practiced. I can't say that they wouldn't do that back then, but it was still very derivative. I don't feel like
Mm.
maybe Misha Green knows more about voodoo. I don't know. Maybe she doesn't know as much, but I feel like you do it a little bit of a disservice. You kind of do what a lot of white people do when they don't really understand, at least for the ones who don't understand this particular religion and put it in movies. Like, for instance, I remember when I was a kid seeing a movie where they basically poked the voodoo doll, which is not even really a thing in voodoo.
Hmm.
So, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So thank you so much, the Anarkist. So just to like kind of wrap up what's happening in the episode. So we find out that when Atticus, he does confront her. I'm in the right episode. Like he confronts her. I think she's at like some real estate office or something. He puts a gun to her head and he tries to pull the trigger. Kudos to him. But she finds out that she's protected by a vulnerability spell. Like so that she can't be harmed. Her father had the same spell, but he had to release the spell in order to do that ritual last episode. So that's why he died, because he had to remove that cloak of like vulnerability or whatever. I sound like I'm saying like vulnerability cloak from like Harry Potter, but no, like he had like a vulnerability spell like to make sure he was safe. She has that same thing, so she can't be attacked because the spell is on her.
Mm.
And so she explains to him that the house was built by Horatio Winthrop, who is a son. He's a son of Adam's member, so he's a member of the Son of Adams, the same group that Atticus's bloodline is, and her father was a part of. That he was banished from the group after stealing pages from the Book of Names in the 1800s. She goes on to tell Atticus that Epstein, who was a follower of Winthrop, he's a follower of the guy that was banished, and he also was the one that was experimenting on people along with that race soldier, the racist cop, that that he was a part of all of this or whatever, and that he's a follower. She asked Atticus after he puts a gun to her head or whatever. She asked him to help her find the missing pages, and which could help decipher the language of Adam, the same thing that her father was trying to do. Because basically, I guess she wants to gain immortality or something. Atticus attempts to shoot her, and she tells him, she's not vulnerable. She has a spell over her, so she can't be harmed. Then we go to the house and we see that they're having this battle with the spirits. That they do this powerful spell, and then the spirits turn against Epstein and the one who was experimenting on his spirit. They attack his spirit and I guess kills his spirit so they can be free. And then the episode basically concludes from there. Do you have any final thoughts about this episode? I'm going to ask you a few questions before we wrap up, but do you have any final thoughts on this episode?
Yeah, I guess my final thoughts is just that, like I said, of the three that I've seen so far, this is my least favorite one based on, I understand, like I said, the first episode was dealing with sundown towns. I thought that was very entertaining, very informative, and it was a good show. The second one dealing with, it was called Whitey's to the Moon or something like that. Whitey's on the Moon, and I thought it was good because it was dealing with Freemasonry, had a lot of information in there. This one took a more so, ghosts movie approach, which had jump scare, which I'm not mad at. I understand all that, but it's just like, what they did with the voodoo stuff, and the whole scene about them possessing the ghost possessing Atticus and all that whole little thing, which was 15 minutes, could have been 5, but I understand it's just this big old thing. Like, I understand. Like I said, I'm liking the show based on the information, based on the good dialogue, and based on that. So I'm not really with the fluff. That whole 10 to 15 minutes of just got my house. Like,
I was scared. I was getting like some with some of those monsters. I was getting some like what's that girl's name? It's like a Chinese girl, like The Grudge. Yeah, that wasn't really descriptive, but we're in sync because you knew what I was talking about. I just said Chinese girl, like you know how it is.
The Ring,
like,
one of those.
Yeah,
no, it got a lot of good. Yeah.
Yeah, they do a lot of great horror films, and I feel like America steals a lot of their ideas when it comes to horror, and The Grudge. I was getting like some Grudge vibes when the monster was next to her bed, and just like creepy, really good creepy stuff where I was just like, oh, is this like a horror movie? I mean, a horror TV show, because things are happening and I'm creeped out. I
wasn't mad at that at all. I like when they introduced it, I'm like, okay, I understand that. This is a scary element for this show, for this particular show, but I just felt like it was done so cheaply, and then the information that was in
show. They've been spending so much money, but
no. As far as the effects, I'm not saying cheaply. As far as like how it looks very well done. It was really good. But I'm just saying like it's cheaply just as far as like this is what you've given us. This show, at least as far as 1 and 2, I would say was good with giving me information that I knew was actually real metaphysical information. This third episode, it kind of lingered into the stuff that amateurs do for scary movies, where they just have ghosts and these different ideas. Some of the stuff, like I said, is true.
I was gonna say, and to me, I feel like the second episode is my least favorite episode. I feel like it just was. I feel like I don't know, like as far as entertaining, I think the second episode was my least favorite. But then again, I don't know as much about metaphysics as you do, and I felt like the show was going in a different direction. I don't know where the show was going, but like I was just like, well, this one was creepy though. This was creepy, but I liked them getting the whole house thing and stuff like that. But as far as my favorite, which is the next question, well, kind of like which episode right now is still, which episode is your favorite one? And for me, I'm going to stick with episode 1 so far. But go ahead. What's your favorite episode after seeing episode 3?
Definitely episode 1, and episode 3 being my least favorite. Episode 3 being my least favorite, to be honest. Like, it wasn't bad, it wasn't terrible, but of all 3 is my least favorite.
Yeah, I would rank 1 as number 1, and then 3 is number 2, and 2 is number 3.
Huh?
Okay, so who is your favorite? And we're gonna try to keep these a little concise with our answers, but what is your favorite character in this episode? Who is your favorite character in this episode?
In this episode, I mean, like obviously, I think you would say Journey Smollett, but
Yeah.
yeah, I would say, because like I said, she was extremely powerful in this episode. Although, and I feel like this episode gave her a lot of depth because we kind of saw another side of Journey. I know we were, or not Journey, but Letitia, because when she was arguing with her brother and he was saying, "Hey, you didn't even make Mom's funeral," he was having all these arguments against her character. I kind of was still on her side, like, well, if she was doing activist stuff, this, that, and the other, then maybe, But then on this one, this Ruby kind of calls her out, and they have a heartfelt moment because he's just like, you get this money. If you was a good person, you'd have just split it between your brothers and sisters, but
Exactly.
you just taking all this money and manipulating people, not telling
Deciding
people
to get a
this.
house. What if they wanted to
Yeah.
pay some debt off?
Yeah, so I feel like this was kind of like very developing for her character because it's just like we do get to see some dark sides. Maybe she is kind of selfish, even though she does want some good. Her sister, like, you said you wanted to help our black community, but you really just moved your artist friends in, So it's
And
like,
some of them ain't paying rent.
right? Do she just do things that she believes is good, but really has different motives, more kind of selfish motives? Kind of learning
And
about her,
and
so.
I love to see the flaws in characters because that's what makes them human. For me, same thing. Letitia is my favorite character. I love that we see the vulnerability of her losing her virginity, the vulnerability of having this desire to be with this man, but also not being like eager and thirsty. She's a woman and she wants to be, what do you call it?
Pursued, or
She wants to be pursued and everything. I love how she stood up to the racist, not only the racist neighbors, but the racist cops. Like uh, I want to cover some more stuff, but I know we're kind of on the timer. I want to talk
yeah,
one
we
thing.
can,
Yeah,
however
I'll
much
bring
time you
that.
got. Yeah,
I gotta. So I
I
got
let
one
it out.
another point. But yeah, so I really like that. She was my favorite character. I love how she went out there and proclaimed her power, and I love
Also,
that.
like,
Just
too, real quick. I'm sorry, I'm media cutting you off. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I love how she just actually, even if it was selfish, just randomly bought this house and wanted to bring
Yeah,
people in. I would do something like
yeah,
that. So
I like that sentiment too. But also, I like how, just real quick, how when I like the dynamic between Leti and Atticus, Leti and Tick,
yeah,
because
they balance each other
when
out.
the scene, the scenes that were a little bit before they had the sex and even afterwards, but when Letitia tells him that, hey, there's a ghost in his house, he doesn't go, oh, you crazy, or what about this? He go, look, I believe you. What we got to do? You know what I'm saying? So I like, just, I know that's kind of seems small, but that scene just shows you how much trust he has in it. Like, no, I study this and I believe you. I don't think you're a liar. Like, and it's almost like a way he kind of showing he love her. Like, I just let me. He just says, look, I believe you. Let me fill me in. Let me know. So I think that's a good thing to see, especially amongst couples, black couples, any couples. It's just like, you don't necessarily have to believe everything that your significant other says,
But
but just
have
that
their
level of
back.
trust.
Have their
That
back.
level of trust, yeah.
And I like that. I just love seeing, the unity amongst black people in this show. It gives me life. It makes me keep coming back for each episode to see what's really going on and where they're journeying to. I do want to say something that's kind of funny. I noticed when she was in the race soldiers wagon, when she was in the police cop race soldier, same thing. No, in this case at least, not all, but in this case, she was in the backseat she was in the paddy wagon. He said some joke that is so mean. He said a joke, but as a black person, I was like, that's kind of funny. He was like, NAACP, what does that stand for? Something, 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 something he said. And I was like, what you should say? That's kind of funny. But I'm telling nobody I'm laughing. And so she even smiled. And I was wondering if the character laughed or if Journey laughed and they just kept it in. Because whatever he said, it was something racist. It was a joke. And all I was thinking was, that was a good one. I was like, when I watched it, I was like, I should be laughing at this. That's how I
you
literally
know,
laughed out loud. And I'm like,
yeah.
he
And
said
she
something
did kind of
racist.
smirk at that one, which I didn't get. I felt like she was maybe going to like be a little bit kind of snarky towards him, but
I don't know if she broke character or if the actor, or the character herself was just like, hi, that's kind of funny. Because she's
that's
probably
why
heard all different kinds of things. Growing
that's
up in
why
that. Okay, go
I
ahead.
was
Go
about
ahead.
to say that's why it's great to have an actress here because I didn't even notice. I didn't even think about that. Like, what if she just kind of slipped it in? Because it wasn't bad. Like, it didn't make me think, oh, break character or nothing. But I just thought it was a little funny. Like, why is she smiling at this? But yeah.
But it was funny because I was laughing too. I was like, that's kind of funny. And the character Leti probably heard all types of racist jokes to where she's like, some of them ain't funny, but even I could laugh at that one. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So the last question I will ask is, what is your prediction for next week's episode?
My prediction for next week's well, I feel like at this point you can't. I'm not sure how if you can really predict.
Exactly.
I feel like they kind of just they. Misha Green is such a great writer. These 3 episodes don't seem like they should have been back to back to back, but the way she actually ties them in is kind of brilliant. You know what I'm saying? If I would somebody was just telling me about all 3 of these episodes and how it progressed, I'd be like, this is probably just a cluster F. You know what I'm saying? Something that just
Yeah, like it's not
you
even the
know
same show a little bit. Like I would think like it's
yeah.
the
So,
same
how you
show.
go from Freemasons to ghosts to, they just don't. But as you watch, that's why I can see why so many people like it because it's just like you do have to see it to really understand. It's not that hard to understand, but it may
Mm-hmm.
be hard to explain. But I'm not gonna make any more predictions. I'm just gonna sit back. Like I said, I am curious to see how the dynamic between Montrose and Atticus works out. Because clearly Atticus or Montrose, Atticus's supposed father, but not his real father, because we know Uncle George has resented him all those years for that. And I think maybe that's why
Yeah.
he beat him. But of course, they went through some sort of trauma as well. I don't know if it has anything to do with their bloodline or lineage, but like even Atticus said, Uncle George, you turned out okay. Why is this dude so twisted? Which we find out immediately that he is. We coming to save you, and your first things is why y'all come here to save me. So
Yeah.
this is a very mhm.
No, I was just gonna say like, I have no predictions for next week's episode. I don't know what's gonna happen, and having seen these 3 episodes, it seems like anything can go. Like they could take this story anywhere because it starts to kind of seem like a new story every week. But I do hope. I want George to be alive again. I miss Uncle
I
George.
will say this though, if you remember the scene where they were down playing with the Ouija board, I believe they spelled
Yeah,
out George, and then
yeah, that was
remember,
scary. I was like,
Diana got
okay,
mad. So I'm
yeah.
just saying that to say, I think maybe his character may come back as far as helping out as far as ghostly, or maybe they may bring him back from the dead. But I think that was a good indicator that because the one boy asked who's here, they spelled out
Hmm.
George, and then Diana of course got mad because she thought her friends was
I
playing a
would be
joke.
too. I would be too. Well, that is this week's episode. I am Almedia Lee Exum, and this is the Anarkist. Thank you so much for joining us, the Anarkist, this week again. You are awesome. We love this idea of like decoding and reviewing this TV show. We're not really big TV people, but when we find a show that really connects with us as artists, as writers, as creatives, we like to have a conversation about it. So I'm so glad we're able to come together, review, share our reactions, and really decode uh, this TV show in this week's episode, episode 3, Holy Ghost, which means something in Black anyway in religion. Um, we're so happy that we're able to come in and decode and talk about this. It's always fun. Please make sure you all follow the Anarchist. Make sure you grab a Truth Seeker shirt. This is his shirt, Truth Seeker. You can grab a hoodie as well, or a coffee mug, or a phone case. If you're a truth seeker and you want to know more about the truth of what's going on in the world, if you love knowledge, you should go and subscribe to the Anarchist's channel. Support him on Patreon and Cash App. We really love like just sharing ourselves with people who want to listen, and he has a lot of knowledge. You can also follow me here on this channel, and you can follow me on Instagram at Almedia Exum. You can also follow me on Facebook and where else? Everywhere. Twitter, of course, YouTube right here. Also, if you're interested in any type of motivation, I'm really passionate about inspiring and motivating people. So you can check out my Happy Life Day motivation if you just need an extra boost in life. I would like for the Anarchist to close us out for today's review. Any last words?
All right. Lastly, the sponsor for this particular episode is My Personal
Oh
Detail.
yeah.
So yeah, you
Yes.
guys can go ahead, Ami.
Oh, you can talk and then I'll talk.
Okay, but I forget the website. Is it
Oh,
mpd.com?
yes, for my personal detail, if you're interested in getting your car detailed, they are located in Chicago, Illinois. They come to you. It's a mobile detail company. They can do ceramic coatings, standard washes on the inside and the outside of your vehicle. So did I say ceramic coatings? Um, full
Engine
details.
cleanings or yeah.
Yes, shampoo of your cars, engine cleanings, sanitations of the inside of your vehicle, which cleans all bacteria and all viruses from your vehicle with the ozone machine. Uh, and then if you have any pet stains in your car, anything you need done to your car, visit my personal detail at mpdetail.com. That's mpdetail.com. You can also look at their work on YouTube, and you can also look at my personal details page and my personal detail on Instagram and on Facebook. On Instagram, you'll see videos of other clients they've had. They're certified through Right Look, which is where like Bentley and Rolls Royce and all these major car companies get their cars detailed and cleaned from. So check out my personal detail at mpdetail.com and on Instagram at mypersonaldetail.com.
All right, y'all. So with that said, man, don't forget to check that out if you're in the Chicago area and support both me and Almedia Exum. We glad to have y'all here, man. It's been fun, man. We love reviewing, decoding, and all this stuff. So if you guys like that, please hit a like on this video. We're gonna see you guys in the next video. Episode 4 is going down right here on Almedia's page. Be here or be square. All right. It's the Anarkist. It's Almedia Exum. We out of here. You feel me? Stay blessed. Peace.
Peace.